Okay, Joe Casey with KC Aviation. And this is kind of a fun little thing that we get to do because I am on our boat in Chattanooga. Deanna and I have a boat. It's a like a houseboat or a boathouse. I'm not sure. I think it's called a houseboat. But anyway, we love to come to Chattanooga. Deanna's kind of from here in her past, grew up not very far, and her family lived so close that they came and lived on the Tennessee River boat life. And the boat that we own is the same boat that she's had in her that she had when she was a kid. So it's kind of a cool place for us to come, and it's a cool place for Deanna to come. And today I had two guys come fly with me that I just think are cool guys. They're guys that we've worked a lot with in the past. I've got Colin and Josh. Both of them came from a long way to come see me and to see Deanna here in Chattanooga. And interestingly, they both own Continental Malibus. And so this is one of the coolest things. Colin, Josh, thank y'all for being a part of this.
Hey, thanks for having us, Joe.
Absolutely. It's been a blast flying so far and looking forward to some more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we flew today. Colin and I flew today. And Josh, you're in the hot seat or the cold seat, depending upon how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the background you're seeing here for both these guys is, again, our houseboat is on the Tennessee River. And so you get to see the lovely Tennessee here.
Yeah.
So, all right. So first off, Chattanooga, are y'all having fun in Chattanooga?
This is great. It's probably about 10 degrees cooler than it is at home and a little less humid, I think.
Yeah, Florida's home, so the humidity's better.
It's getting a little warm now. A little warm.
You know, I took off from Texas, and it was 10 degrees warmer and more humid there, too. Tennessee's it seems like it's a nice place.
It is. And it's great scenery. It's a little hillier than the swamps of Florida.
Yeah.
But it's great flying, great, scenic flying day.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it.
And Josh, you didn't come from a swampy.
No, I live up in New England and New Hampshire, so it was a little bit longer flight to get down here, but it was a great day flying down and had an absolutely excellent experience riding in the back with Colin. And I feel like it's a little bit cheating because I'm going to fly with Joe tomorrow, and I've seen some of the things he pulls. So Joe's going to have to be even more devious to try to fool me.
Yeah, you're not getting any of that stuff. I'm going to give you all fresh stuff, man. Yeah. For sure. Okay, so let's go down that road. Colin, let me hit you first. What's it like to fly in the front seat knowing somebody's in the back seat, specifically watching what you're doing?
Honestly, after about 5 minutes or so, I completely forgot. I mean, I was focused on the flying. I was focused on the shenanigans happening in the right seat.
Yeah.
I really forgot he was back there. Every once in a while there'd be an opportunity for some conversation with Josh. Hey, Josh, what do you think? If you didn't know what was going on, or whatever. So I think it was an enriching experience having somebody else back there, but didn't affect my flying. Didn't affect the recurrent training. I mean, I think it was great.
Yeah. Okay, Josh, what's it like in the back seat, watching somebody that has an airplane virtually exactly the same as yours go through the motions?
It's really interesting. There was a lot of new information, a lot of information about flying in ways we don't often. We're planning for some emergencies or for some anomalies. And when you're flying, I think you're really focused on the flying and you sort of hear what's going on, but it doesn't all necessarily click in. And I felt really privileged to be able to sit there and watch both what Colin was doing and really hear what Joe was saying. And so I feel like I learned an enormous amount from doing that. And I'm hopeful what Colin does tomorrow. He goes flying with me, because to not have the sort of added, I won't say stress, but the added
the pressure of performing.
Of actually flying the plane and being able to listen and watch. I think for me it was great. I got a tremendous amount.
You learn. In the Army, we had basically the instructor pilot sat in the front, the other student sat in the front, and then your stick buddy is what we call him, sat in the back of the Huey when I was going there. And even when they had the Blackhawk, they had the Blackhawks with all the seats removed in the back except for one right in the center, so that person in the back could watch what's going on in the front. You learn more in the back than you ever did in the front seat, because in the front seat you have to perform. You're always constantly looking for the next thing you're doing, making sure you're ahead of the game, following the steps. And in the back seat, you look forward and you kind of, he forgot this, or you didn't do that little thing. I wonder if he sees that Joe pulled that circuit breaker,
and he didn't.
Yeah, exactly. But you learn so much in the back seat because there's just no pressure on the whole thing. It's just a wonderful. The other thing I remember is that when we had the thing you did when you were in the backseat of a Huey or a Blackhawk, if the guy forgot his fuel check, like a fuel check we had to do, then we'd kick the seatbelt, like push the seatbelt. They'd be, oh yeah, I gotta, and they'd, oh, let's check the fuel, because if you didn't check the fuel, it's like not clearing airspace on a check ride.
Yeah.
You're going to fail that maneuver and fail the check ride because you didn't do this thing. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, there was a lot of seatbelt kicking going on back there.
Fortunately, I didn't have to do any of that for Colin today. And it was a pretty low pressure overall because it's recurrent training. It's not your initial trying to get signed off to fly it. But it was
it's
really
not a check ride, but it sort of feels that way, doesn't it, Colin?
It does somewhat. I mean, sure, there's absolutely an expectation that, you need to be able to do certain things, right? I mean, if I just couldn't fly the plane, I couldn't fly an approach, I couldn't land the plane. I mean, you wouldn't sign the biannual.
I wouldn't sign. No, you wouldn't get it. But if it's a recurrent training, usually they fly to you. If they can get to you, you're probably going to help them get better.
Right.
In this case, and you did great as far as that. But it is a little bit of a hot seat feel.
It is, sure.
And even if you're flying with, it's not just me, but it's any CFI that's worth their salt. There's a little pressure just having another CFI on board. There's somebody watching. There's somebody doing that. And there's a little thing there, isn't there? All right, Colin, you've had your Continental Malibu now for...
It's been about 18 months now. Okay. A year and a half now.
And unfortunately, you had to buy an engine.
I did. Okay. I did. I got, I think I want to say I had about 60 hours or so from when I bought it. The engine had about 1,000 hours on it, give or take.
Yep.
And I lost the engine. Thankfully, I didn't necessarily lose it in air. I had some symptoms of a dying engine in air, but my last landing was under power, thankfully. But I did lose the engine. It was full of metal. Had to buy a new engine. So I made the decision. I bought a brand new engine, but I also upgraded to the 550 from the 520.
Okay.
Which was I think was the right choice.
Yeah. It's 550 upgrading's wise.
Yep.
Not only from the sense of you can develop more horsepower at a higher altitude. Yep. In other words, the 520 will sort of, you get to, depending upon the temperature, you get to 18 or so, some in that ball, you're going to start losing it. And you're not going to develop full horsepower.
Right.
And but the 550 will breathe better. It basically is it's the same size piston. The bore is the same, but the stroke is different.
Right.
I mean, it's basically going to have a longer stroke, and the 550 develops 550 cubic inches of displacement because it has a longer stroke. There's your power. And it's just like if you put a bike, like you have a bicycle with a longer pedal arm, you know what I'm saying? In other words, you get a little huffy with the pedal arms not very far. You can't develop horsepower. If you go figure out what bikes they're using in competition level, they have a longer pedal arm that's able to develop more horsepower, if you want to think of it that way.
Right.
550 does the same exact thing. So your engine is derated. Basically, you're going to take off with 36 inches of manifold pressure. 520, you're going to take off with 38.
Right.
And that's why they're both 310 horsepower. But when you get up to higher altitude, that longer stroke means you can develop your 36 inches at a higher altitude.
I'm getting pretty much all the way up to 24,000 feet with the same amount of power. Whereas I was losing it at about 18,000. So
so once you get up there, it's a smooth engine too. Tell me about it.
Oh, it's a wonderful. It is a lot smoother. It's a really smooth engine. Runs really, really nice. Really, really happy with it. I haven't really had any problems since I've had it.
Who installed the engine for you?
So it was installed by Daytona.
Okay.
Daytona.
And did that go well? A little shout out for them.
It went great. They did a nice job. I ended up taking it there out of circumstance instead of the place that I normally go. But they did a great job. They really did. They did a nice job installing the engine. A whole lot of communication during the process. So yeah, I was happy with it.
Okay. Now you have not gotten your new paint job yet.
I have not.
But it's happening.
It is happening.
And you got a slot with Murmur.
I do. Okay. I do.
I will tell you, I don't know of a negative story about Murmur, and I've been in this world a long time. It's a good shop.
I've talked to a lot of people.
And so far your dealings with Murmur have gone well?
I've had nothing but a great experience with Murmur. Yeah. I've had nothing but high recommendations from people I've spoken to.
They do a lot of airplanes in the PA-46 world, and they just do a good job. They're down there in the Houston area. Houston Southwest is where they're at, and they do a great job. I'm really excited to see the paint job that you're going to get. How are you going to go about deciding your paint scheme? What's going on? Is it the wife? Is it you? Is it both? What's happening?
Yes. So, you
Yes
know,
and
it's,
yes and yes.
yes, yes, and yes. You know, it's really hard when you're stripping and painting a plane because you got a blank slate to start from, right?
Right.
So I was out at Sun and Fun this year, and I connected with aircraft designers. I
Aircraft
decided
designers.
aircraft designers they're called. And it's just a nominal fee that they charge you, and they'll do the entire design for you. They'll unlimited samples back and forth and feedback. And they actually sent me the paint book. It was the same paint that Murmur uses. So I've got the full airplane, paint book with all the paint samples at home right now. So they're going to do the design for me. They'll send the design to Murmur. They'll send the full templates that they can, scalable templates they can use. So I worked with them to come up with the design. Many hours with my wife trying to figure out, what we both like. So
did you really like have her looking at?
Oh, 100%. She is equally invested as I am. In fact, maybe more so invested because it's the cosmetic, outside of the plane. So
yeah, you're a smart man. But it does, when your wife walks out to the airplane and the airplane looks like she wants us to look.
Absolutely.
There's something about that that's just I look forward. Will you give us a report back? I think your airplane's getting painted in August.
The end of August, yeah.
End of August. So by October, we ought to be able to.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this thing ought to be all over Facebook, right?
Oh, you better believe it. Yeah.
Okay, Josh.
Yes.
You are a little bit of not notoriety, a little infamy, or a little, I don't know what the right word is.
A little known.
A little known. You've been on the Malibu Guru podcast, but aside from that, that's not your biggest claim to fame. But the biggest claim to fame is you've been with ForeFlight for a long time.
I have, yes.
And tell everybody what do you do for ForeFlight?
So I'm the manager of the support team. That's the team of pilots that work from various places around the world, and we answer emails that customers send in asking questions across all the different marketplaces that we're in.
So you mean if a customer's not happy, it's your fault?
I wouldn't say that's my fault. My team does our best to try to answer their question and turn that frown upside down, get them happy with the app.
That is it. But if you're interfacing with the customer after the product is purchased, it's your team.
That's right. And we're now, we've always been in the general aviation space, and we've grown recently into business aviation and even into military aviation. So it's a bunch of different markets that we weren't in 12 years ago when I joined the company. So it's been pretty exciting.
Really, if you look at it, you go back to in the early days of ForeFlight, you were there.
I was,
real early days, you were there. You were like, I don't know, employee number what?
Probably 25 or 30. Somewhere in there.
Early. And we're talking now that ForeFlight has hundreds of employees.
Yeah, a little bit north of 400 now.
Yeah, 400 plus employees. So this is pretty cool. I mean, you're like one of the dudes. It's got kind of
been around. Seen a few things.
Seen a few things, and that's kind of cool that you're in the PA-46 community, flying a PA-46, and doing this for ForeFlight. Because I'm telling you, ForeFlight is such a important company in our space. Meaning, y'all are providing. I use it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's an everyday thing. It's totally revolutionized what we do. And I just think that's cool. But y'all are growing. You're going into, when you say commercial, what do you mean by that?
So if I said commercial, I misspoke. So there's general aviation, the business aviation, and military. Commercial, like airlines, that's not our business. We're not focused on that at all. So
gotcha. So
we're in the other areas.
So meaning if you got a fancy jet, y'all are getting into the
the Gulfstreams and the Challengers. Many of those pilots are flying with ForeFlight now, and we're trying to earn the business from the rest of them.
Yeah, and military, boy, I can tell you, I used to fly in the military, and we were handed paper pubs all the time and told you can't use various different things because. And I would say, gosh, I have ForeFlight at home. I've got all this data, right? And then with the military, it was, no, you can't use that. You got to use this antiquated junk. And because you'd think the military would be way ahead, but they're not. They need you. It's such a good thing. I hope the military, I hope y'all ever make good advancements into that because you got a great product.
Thank you. We've worked really hard at it, and we've got a specific app version we call Military Flight Bag, and it's got some features that military pilots use exclusively, and so it's been pretty well received as far as I can tell.
Okay, I know there's some things that are out there that are coming up that you probably can't talk about.
I can't. I'd have to hire you, Joe, which would be great, but I can't.
Well, great. I'd love to. It'd be great to work for you. Tell us some things that have come out in the last year that maybe some people that use ForeFlight but just don't, they do what they've always done.
Sure.
Tell me a couple things that you're excited about that have come out in the last year. They're already out there,
Yeah.
but maybe that some PA-46 and TBM and King Air pilots might want to go back and go, hey, I didn't know it did that.
Yeah.
Tell me a couple things.
So there's the feature that we came out with pretty recently is called the reported turbulence, and that leverages Sentry ADS-B receivers. So if you have a Sentry or a Sentry Plus, and you register that with ForeFlight, you get access to the reported turbulence feature at 14,000 feet and below at no extra cost. We also offer it up to, I'll say, unlimited altitudes, any altitude at which the data is gathered. And that ends up being $50 if you register a Sentry or a Sentry Plus. And these are automated reports that use the accelerometer data in the Sentry to evaluate what kind of turbulence is it. Is it light? Is it moderate? Is it severe? And so it's a consistent way of looking at turbulence, and it takes into account the size of the aircraft, the speed that you're going, and all of that data is recorded while you're in flight. And when you next connect ForeFlight to the internet after you land, it's transmitted to our servers. And about 15 or 20 minutes later, you'll be able to look back and see, oh, well, there's the route that I flew and it was smooth. Oh, hey, I remember.
And here's the
bumpy.
threats.
Here's where it was bumpy. So, there are a few thousand PIREPs per day where pilots actually call in on the radio and give a report about turbulence. And those are great because it tells you when turbulence is happening, but it doesn't tell you when turbulence isn't happening. And kind of the neat thing about the reported turbulence feature is if it's smooth, it's recording that smooth data. And when you pull that layer up in the app, which you can do on the map page or in the profile view, it'll show gray dots. And if it's gray dots, that means that
it's not that it's not reporting. It's telling you it's reporting good news.
Good news, right?
You know you're in a good spot.
So that one's pretty neat. It's just in its infancy. We've got some exciting plans for how that can be expanded down the road. But it's as close to live data as we can get. It's not directly transmitted out of your plane. It is cached in ForeFlight and then transmitted once you land and your device connects to the internet again. But I think that's going to really give people some insight into where they might want to fly, or help them pick an altitude that may be more likely to be smooth for their passengers and smooth for me. That's right. I mean, I prefer a smooth ride if I can get it.
Yeah, and when I fly, it takes a seasoned veteran with a tuned ear to listen to everybody, sort of figure out where they're at. And you can kind of do it if you're really good and sort of get the idea of where they might be going, and because you can hear where they're at, and then they're going to a certain fix, and you know where the fix is at, and you know what altitude, and you kind of piece together where you might have a better ride if you went up or down a couple thousand feet. Wow, that was a big fish.
Big fish. Yeah, we are filming live.
Wow, that was a big right on. Where's the fishing poles, man? Wow, that's serious. That was a good fish.
Yeah,
it was. I can't only
concentrate upon completely.
Yeah. No, but the idea behind it is you can kind of piece together where they're at. But the idea here is that you can make a preemptive choice. I want to go to that altitude because I know I have good data telling me it's probably smooth down.
Right. And the data, it's hidden after 6 hours. So it's automatically going to clear out data that's really old because that's probably less relevant
useless
to your planning.
That's right.
So if you look at the layer now, you'll probably see a lot of activity going on in Florida, both because it's bumpy and because there was a lot of people flying with Sentries in Florida. There's a lot of student activity down there. A lot of people have those in the plane.
Yeah.
And then you also see it out across the rest of the U.S. and even some over in Europe and other places around the world where people are flying with a Sentry. So really anywhere that you fly with it, if you're flying, once you land and your ForeFlight connects to the internet, they'll upload that data, and it's anonymized. There's no way to trace it back to one individual or a type of a specific aircraft. The aircraft type is noted because that's important for judging,
the severity of the
right.
That's right.
Moderate turbulence in a Cessna 150 is not the same as moderate turbulence in a Challenger 605. You got to know the size of the aircraft and the speed that it's going, but it's anonymized so that your privacy is protected. And it's I've only just started to really use it. And figure out how it's going to change the way I fly. But I'm excited to see how people use it and how the features enhanced in the months to come.
Okay, Josh, tell me another one.
So there's a couple of other things that are pretty exciting. We added traffic on runway alerts. So regardless of what kind of ADS-B receiver you're using, so it can be a panel mounted one, it can be a Stratus, the Sentries, any kind of ADS-B receiver that's compatible with ForeFlight. We look at the traffic targets that we see on the ground, and if you are flying towards a runway and an airplane pulls out onto the runway, you'll get an alert in ForeFlight. And by the same token, if you are on the ground and you are pulling into a runway and there's an airplane coming in, you will get an alert about that as well. I haven't triggered one of those yet, knock on wood, but you know, it's we really think strongly about how can we improve the safety for pilots flying, and you know, that's something that
just runway incursion avoidance.
Right, exactly. And there's already the alerts in the app that you are entering a runway, so you can get that heads up, and that's one thing. But to actually be told, hey, there is a target coming in that you want to pay attention to is I think a really neat addition.
Absolutely.
And then something that's a little bit more sort of getting back to the way it was a couple of years ago, we had, and many pilots really appreciated, the base or the lowest tilt radar. And that went away due to a change in radar providers. The product was basically, we couldn't get it anymore. And so we've worked really hard over the last year or so to develop a new source for base or lowest tilt radar.
What do you mean by that? When you say base or lowest tilt?
So they're trying to make it simple. So there's composite radar, which is sort of looking at all sorts of different angles up through the atmosphere from a radar dish that's rotating around here. And that's sort of everything that's up in the atmosphere. The base or the lowest tilt is just this lowest angle. So the lowest tilt from the radar dish as it's circling around. And that is the precipitation or the moisture that's most likely to reach the ground.
Right.
So if you're planning and you want to see where is it, like rain hitting the ground, the lowest tilt of the base is most likely where that's going to be. So that's now back into the app. And as a benefit, it's got even lower latency. So the processing that we were able to come up with for it
reaches me faster in flight. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's only on the ground. So it's only through the internet.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, it's less latency, less sort of lag time or delay, however you want to call it, in the radar product. So we're really glad we were able to bring it back. Our weather team worked extremely hard on it, and it was a lot of work, but glad it's here.
Talk to me just a minute. Talk to us about new products, new things that happen in ForeFlight. Is there like a research team? Is there like people that all they do is come up with weird ideas?
So we do have sort of a skunk works
exactly.
Some really creative individuals who go off and are kind of thinking years down the road, what can we bring in? And then we have a team of dedicated product managers that are focused on a specific area of the app.
This is one we want to provide,
right?
And they're looking to add that to the mix,
right? And you know, we try to come up with a logical roadmap for where do we want to move the app, because we want to bring out innovative new features that attract pilots to choose to subscribe to it, that help us keep our place in the marketplace, and to help us capture new customers. You know, the military features we added didn't exist a few years ago, and we stood up a team to go develop those, and it's really paid off.
You know, from John Gramea is the PMOPA president, and he always talks about a value proposition. In other words, why should somebody want to be a part of PMOPA? And there ought to be, where not just, well, it's only $250 a year. I'm actually getting something from this. You know, is the idea good?
It's more than just a shirt.
It's a good, there you go. It's a good value proposition. The ForeFlight, the value proposition from ForeFlight is sky high. In other words, when I pay, when it's time, like I just renewed, when I renew, and it's like, you know, this money's coming out of your account, I don't blink. Great. This because I use this every day. I'm using it all the time, and the added products that come. I don't want y'all to go up in price. That's not where I'm going. But it is it is a neat, and in so much of our aviation world, especially predatory FBOs, can't stand them, where you can buy fuel here where you want to land for $8 a gallon, or you go 15 miles down the road, you go to all the satellite airports with $3 less.
Yeah.
That's a predatory FBO at a predatory airport.
Yeah.
And it's just, what can we get from you? How can we extract money out of you? It seems like ForeFlight is one of the better deals in the marketplace.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that. We work pretty hard to keep it a great value, and we've got different plan levels for pilots at different stage of their flying career or different needs. Every plan level has all of the charts, has flight planning. You can file your flight plan. You've got the radar, and then we add on the things like georeferencing or the profile view, the aircraft performance profiles, the runway analysis, and we try to come up with a combination that works for many pilots. And I mentioned it on the last podcast, and it's still the same. We know we have to earn every pilot's renewal every year. Right. And so we don't rest on our laurels. We try to make sure that if a bug comes up, we address it. And we're also focused on bringing out new features that make pilots excited to go and renew. And we've got some really cool stuff coming this summer. I wish I could tell you, but I value my job, so I can't mention it. But
next year's recurrent training, I expect
yes.
When I asked this exact question of what came out in the last year,
there will be a long list.
They're on I fully expect there will, not because I demand it, it's because I've come to expect a lot from ForeFlight.
Like I said, I think ForeFlight is probably the most expensive of all the ones in the market, right? I mean, there's a couple. There's one other big one for sure. There's a bunch of smaller ones that are free or almost free. I've tried other ones. I've especially because of my avionics stack. I thought I'm going to try this other one. I'm going to see if it works. Every single time I come back to ForeFlight, it's because of ease of use, and it's because of the number. I mean, every time I'm opening up ForeFlight, I'm getting that ding ding. Here's all the new features. It's got to be weekly now.
Yeah,
so
it's not quite weekly. Every month we have.
It feels like
it.
It's a cool company.
The value is there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really a great team of people at ForeFlight. I have the privilege to work there and to talk to you and the listeners of the podcast about it. But we wouldn't be here today without the efforts of just a plethora of people across the company. And I'm grateful every day that I get to work with such an amazing group of people.
Hey, Josh, I got to throw this one at you.
Uh-oh.
Boeing has been in the news lately. It's early 2020, mid 2024.
Yep.
Y'all had a black eye or two.
There've been some struggles, that's for sure.
And ForeFlight's a Boeing company.
Yeah, Boeing bought ForeFlight back in, I think, 2019.
Yeah, exactly. What's it like at ForeFlight knowing you're a Boeing company? I'm not asking the question well. How's it going knowing that it's a Boeing company? From the outside, I think a lot of times we get fake news or get news that's not real or that's blown up out of proportion, things of this nature. Are things going okay with ForeFlight knowing it's a Boeing company?
Yeah, Boeing has been very open, I think, about the gaps that happened. Yeah. And from the top down, we have been focused on quality in a way that I haven't seen before since I've been at ForeFlight. We've always operated as kind of our own little group. We're big in the EFB space, but we're small in the Boeing world. But the focus on quality has come down in a sincere way, not in a, hey, we just got to check this box, but really we took across ForeFlight, we took days off to step away from our day-to-day work and really take a hard look at what we are doing quality-wise within ForeFlight and thinking about how that affects both Boeing and all the pilots that are choosing to use ForeFlight. So it's we know we've got work to do as part of Boeing, but within ForeFlight, we're hearing the message and we're redoubling our efforts to put out a quality app.
Go ahead.
As far as being underneath Boeing, overall, I think it's been a really good experience. They've brought some resources to the table that we didn't have when we were just standalone.
Yep.
They've opened some doors into markets that we weren't in before. And Jeppesen is also a Boeing company. So us being peers within Boeing has enabled us to work even more closely together than we were able to prior to that. So you'll be seeing some neat things coming from that close relationship over the next few months as well.
I don't fly Boeing airplanes. Actually, I flew them. I owned a Boeing Stearman. I don't think that counts, but it kind of does. But everybody wants Boeing to do well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big American company that's employs probably hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we want this to go well. Everybody, and we want it to go well because you can't duplicate a Boeing quickly, and we need Boeing to do well.
Right.
And everybody in aviation needs the top end stuff to go well, and we need the bottom end stuff. We need all the. I want Boeing to do well.
Me too.
And so, yeah, exactly. So I'm thrilled to hear. Really, what you're talking about is culture. The culture of excellence starts from the top, works its way down, trickles all over the place, and they're interested in that occurring.
Right. And Boeing has. I'm not in the executive ranks, so I don't hear what gets talked about there. But my experience in the level that I'm at has been Boeing hasn't come in and said, "Well, you have to change and do it this way because this is the Boeing way." They've let us at ForeFlight continue to innovate the way that we have proven works in the EFB market. They've helped us out in some areas, and they've taken some of what we do and moved it or used it in other parts of Boeing. So it's really been an overall very positive experience since they bought us.
If you have, I'm going to use this is going to sound crazy, but I'll go there. If you have a son that's misbehaving, you don't have to go to your son and say, you don't do that. You're grounded, you're whatever. You simply have to go, you're a Casey. And Casey's don't. This is not what Casey's do.
Right.
And it almost sounds like Boeing goes, this is not what we want Boeing. A mishap or a door flying off or a culture, you know what I'm saying, is not who we are.
Right.
Let's behave like who we are. We're Boeing. Let's go. And that sort of like that message is trickling down is what it sounds like.
I think so.
And I think I'm excited about that because I want y'all to do really, really well.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. Same question for both of you. Colin, I'll start with you. In the next year, what do you plan on doing with your Malibu that you're kind of excited about? I know you're getting a paint job.
Well, paint for sure.
Paint job for sure.
And I'm about the top end of my budget for the next year right there. Now we just buy a hangar down in Orlando.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
And let me just tell you, hangar ownership is absolutely, if you're going to own an airplane, own a hangar.
It's a game changer. I mean, it's just, being able to go in and out anytime I want, having control over it. It's been great. It's really, really been good.
By the way, that fish just jumped again. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man, we're going to get that fish. There's some boaters, fishermen out here, and you come get this thing.
This may not be due to my Malibu necessarily, or with the Malibu necessarily, but when it does go in for painting, I'm going to go finally get my tail wheel.
Tail wheel endorsement.
Get my tail wheel endorsement. There's a school right by me that does my tail wheel, so I'm looking forward to just tail wheel flying.
Yeah.
Little different from the very structured, PA-46 flying and go out and have some fun in the air.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. That's what I think of for now. For the
okay.
Next year.
Josh, what's the next year hold for you in aviation?
Well, hopefully a lot of continued travel. We bought the Malibu to be able to visit my mom and my wife's parents, and that it's been amazing to be able to do that. We can get to Florida in one or two stops. We can get to Wisconsin in one stop. And the plane can do it more, but I've learned that, happy family, happy wife, happy life. So we stop at a good place to stop. We go to the bathroom, we get some food, we have a rest, or, stretch our legs. And that just makes the trip really nice for everybody. So looking forward to, hopefully exploring a few new places. We don't have any specific destinations in mind yet, but just, try to keep flying at least 100 hours a year and keep maintaining the plane well. And yeah.
I will say the one thing that I forgot about is, as you're talking about traveling different places, is I moved down to Florida about 3 years ago, and one of the appeals of moving down to Florida is the great aviation, the great flying down there, and the proximity to the Bahamas. So
the Bahamas you're coming.
They're coming. Next few months, I'm going to be in the Bahamas. I've been doing a lot of research lately and finding places to go. So I'm looking forward to the first Bahamas trip here. Really,
I love the Bahamas. I'm telling you, if I lived in Florida, I'd be Bahama bound as often as I could.
I may get hooked.
All right. Colin, Josh, appreciate you being a part of the Malibu Guru podcast and coming to us for refresher recurrent training.
For sure.
And
Thanks, Joe.
we look forward to flying with you as many times as our phone will ring when you're on the other side.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just put out a word there. I think the opportunity to fly with somebody else who's doing the training really is, maybe not every year, but if you are flying, if you have a friend in the PA-46 community or in the TBM community and you've got a chance to go do, back-to-back training and
sitting in the back seat and watching
the back seat,
yep,
right.
Yep.
It's a
such a great opportunity.
It's really cool experience to see it. And I'm excited for Colin to get that experience tomorrow. And early on, it wasn't all just like emergencies and anomalies. Joe gave us a master class in the KFC 150 in the first part of the flying, and I learned a tremendous amount.
Yeah,
I thought I was pretty good with the buttonology, but boy, I learned some modes and capabilities of that autopilot that I didn't know, and so I'm excited to now be able to use that when I go flying.
I said earlier today, I feel like I got a brand new autopilot. It
Yeah.
does twice as many things as I thought it did. I feel like
you
I got an upgrade.
mean it'll do that?
It's amazing.
KFC 150 is a good autopilot that doesn't speak to you well.
Right.
And once you learn how it speaks to you, not bad.
Yeah.
Good little, I mean, there's better autopilots for sure, but you're talking about an autopilot that's been around for 40 years, early 80s. I mean,
Absolutely.
What a wonderful, that's an autopilot that's lasted a long time and fabulous as far as that's concerned. Needs some safety features, needs to be able to speak to you well, but you're talking about an autopilot, a piece of technology that has endured.
Yeah.
And, I've got two techie guys here that are thinking, I think we can keep it there a little bit longer and make it go.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Joe Casey with Casey Aviation with Colin and Josh signing off.